All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Roll Call Room podcast. I am one of your hosts, Nick. With me is the lovely Takeover Chicago, Mark the Cop. How are you, buddy? How's it going?
Mark / Mike the Cop.
The Cop.
Which is pretty ingenious. You did that. What, 2 shows ago?
And
I just now noticed it.
I was waiting for you to
be a detective.
and it's funny is because there's a good friend of ours that we did a podcast with turned around and said that Mark Mike thing is fucking hilarious. Like, just absolutely hilarious. Great last episode with Cincinnati.
Yes.
Since we did that episode, I think the update is that the victim in that brutal beating was charged.
Can you imagine that?
Yeah, what was it? Not obstruction, disorderly conduct. Yeah. Man, like you look at Cincinnati, you look at Chicago.
They didn't charge the female. I'm sorry, Nick. Didn't mean to jump in.
No, not the female. It was
they charged the guy, the other guy. So allegedly he instigated the whole fight.
Yeah, which is kind of weird. It's weird. I don't know. I don't know how that's going to play out. I think, you and I have been around a while. I think all these folks, I think it's six or seven of them have been charged. I'd be amazed if any of them get a $50 fine and a free hot dog.
Right. Yeah.
But by the time public outrage kind of dies down, it's old news. I think the news cycle is just so fast with what's going on. Like every day seems like a Simpson and South Park episode combined.
It's well, you mentioned Chicago in the intro there, and I'm like, those guys just need to shut up. It's just like, I had 2 older brothers, and when I was mad, my older brother would just taunt me when I was a young man, not young man, when I was a kid. And the more I complained, the more he taunted. And it's just what those 2 knuckleheads, Pritzker and Johnson, whatever Trump says, boo, they're like, oh, they're all outraged. He's like, he does it again. And they're like, oh, and it's like, don't you guys know he's just playing you? Who cares? If you guys are embracing, unsafe communities and crime in the streets, and that's all he's getting you to do is to say, we love crime in the streets. Don't come here because we love crime.
He's
so dumb.
And we've talked about this before. Like I grew up with Trump in New York City, so I kind of know how he is. If you read his
book, longer hate.
Yeah. Hate is in the sense of like, I can only tolerate listening to him for so long because it's almost like on a repeat loop.
Yeah.
But the things that I do like about him is we're going to do this and then we're going to ask for forgiveness later on. Like, the appeals court put out that their occupation of LA was unlawful. That's going to get overturned in the Supreme Court. I have a strong feeling. And if it doesn't, then Congress is definitely going to need to step in, because at what point do you step in as a president where crime is so bad in a city or a state where the elected officials are sleeping on the job? Like where it's acceptable for over Labor Day weekend for 9 people to be killed and 53 people shot. That's crazy. I don't care what president you are. I think if you're an elected official in Baltimore and you've got crime rampant like that, and you're not doing anything, I think, the president should step in. And I don't think even the president should be stepping in. I think where we fail as a nation, where the 2 parties are so far apart from each other that they fail to ask each other for help, and it's us that pay the price for it. It's machismo. It's whose dick is bigger than whose. Like, it's like, I'm not gonna Pritzker or whatever the fuck that guy's name is. He will never ever call the White House and say, "Hey, listen, I need your help." He's running in 2028. It's very apparent. But what he doesn't understand is that, like, Trump is playing chess and this guy is barely playing checkers, man. Like,
He's playing. Yeah. He's
he's
playing
like
Go
playing
Fish.
mahjong. Yeah, he's playing like mahjong while
Yeah.
Trump is playing chess. Like, you're in essence saying, "Hey, listen, we're going to double down. Not only are we not going to ask for help, but now we're going to create this website." I just read it this morning before we got on the air. They
No, I
created
didn't
a
say that.
website, and the lieutenant governor um, is giving this website out on how illegal immigrants can avoid ICE capture and deportation and all these other things. And listen, I'm fine with people being here when they're working and they're contributing members to society.
And
But
legal,
I can't tell
legally
you
here.
how many times I have been, like, Alexandria City, where I was a cop, was right outside of DC. There's pockets of El Salvadorian,
Hmm.
Guatemalan
Hmm.
communities, and it always astounded me when I would go to a crime scene and I would say to the person, start asking questions because they were a victim. They couldn't communicating in English, so when I got a translator there, one of the questions I asked them was, "How long have you been here?" And it used to astound me that the answer would be, "I've been here for 15 years. I've been here for 20 years." And you're not assimilating to the to the area that you're in. Like, you're doing yourself a huge injustice. I've always said this. I think if you're gonna come on over here, I think the right way for the government to do things, and those of you that are listening, some of you may not agree with me, and that's perfectly fine. That's what makes this country amazing. I think what happens is you immediately come in through the right port of entries. I
Hmm.
think the US government gives you a temporary social security number, and they say to you, "Hey, listen, your court case for your application will be 16 months from now, 18 months. I don't, whatever it is." When you come back here, this social security number, this temporary social security number that we gave you, we will track this number and see how you're contributing to society. In 18 months, when you come back to court, then they run that social
You
security number
better
and
know the language.
well, it's that. What have you contributed? Have you gotten a job? Have you contributed to taxes? Are you a drain on society? Meaning you're doing nothing but you're doing off the books jobs. So in 18 months, when we run that temporary social security number, we can turn around and say, "Hey, listen, this person's paid $6,000 in federal taxes. This is somebody that we need to bring in." Okay. This is somebody that's assimilating. They're getting a job. They're contributing. They are good for our economy. Now, if you come in 18 months and we run that social security number and it's a big fat goose egg, well then, what are you doing
To the
here?
plane, to the
Right,
plane you go.
right. Because you're going to put your kids into school. The schools are already busting at the seams because the tax
Hmm.
revenue is just not there. I mean, it goes on and on and on and on and on and on. And in Chicago, I think when we do the next episode, I have a feeling by the time that happens, there'll be a deployment into Chicago by then,
Hmm.
because he's chomping at the bit. I think there's
Oh
some
yeah.
strategy going on behind the scenes why he hasn't done it already. Um,
He's. I think he's having too much fun playing them. All you gotta do is just look. It's like stop looking at me. I'm not looking at you, but you're looking at. That's the whole game they're playing, and kind of like shame on Trump for wasting my time because it's absolutely dominating the news cycle right now, and it's like I am so tired of watching these morons. Yeah, you love crime in the street, but the problem is in some of those cities they can't get these people out of office because they've insulated themselves so well, and made their districts their side so much that it's virtually impossible to get them out of there. So what else do you do? You just highlight the fact that it's we have what did we have? Did they say 54 shootings last week? What's your solution? We need more affordable housing. No, you don't.
no,
You
you
need to take
don't.
the criminals out of the street, and everyone knows that. That's what we're talking about now. It's laughable the way these morons think, but it gets down to what Dan Bongino says: is it bad enough yet? How bad does it have to get before you people stop voting these people in? You know,
Yeah,
it's just like when, well, we can't do anything about the border until Congress acts. No, we didn't need, we just need a new president. He closed the
yeah.
border in what, a week? Boom.
Close the border. I mean, he did Washington D.C. And it's
Yeah.
hasn't been a homicide in I think 2 weeks now, 3 weeks now. I can't
Well, they went
remember.
12 days and then they had one.
Oh, and then they had one. Oh,
Carjackings down there were rampant by these
yeah,
young kids. And they
yeah.
were, their police force is down a couple of hundred. So it's just the typical, I shouldn't say typical. It is a typical blue city. Well, we can't do nothing about it. So everyone has that broken window effect. It's like, well, just throw another rock and break some more glass out.
Yeah, I don't know if I ever told you this or I said this on the air. When I left Alexandria City, I was gone for 2 weeks. And then that's when I said, hey, listen, I want to come back. It's because I went to go work for the Metropolitan Police Department as a civilian in the
How about that?
recruiting department. So I was the head of background investigations. So I
Oh,
was
wow.
my team was the last line of defense before you made it into the academy.
Hmm.
And I got to tell you, the reason why I left that job and I wanted to come back to APD was the things that I was seeing. One, I was afraid I was going to get sued
Oh, goodness.
because eventually, that police department, if they really pull back the layers and they look at the hiring practices, they're a little bit different because they're a very large agency. They put a police academy together every single month.
Oh, wow.
So
A
an
different class?
academy, yes,
Oh, my
it's a
gosh.
it's a 35-person class every single month. So every month, 35 people, theoretically, if they all make it, 35 officers graduate a month. So you're putting 35 on the street every single month, right?
Good Lord.
Yeah, it's a large department. So back when I was there, I remember like my second or third day on the job, I was sitting at a round table with, at the time, was the chief of police, deputy chiefs of police, HR, all these different people. And I think it was like the 18th of the month. And the police commissioner was like, how many people do we have coming into this academy class? And I think we said like 7. And he was like, I want by the end of the day, I want you guys to go back to your office and I want 25 by the end of the day ready to go. And so what we would do, yeah, and I never forget this. I went back to the office and my boss, who was the one that hired me, she turned around, she was like, we had green, yellow, red. And so she was like, I want you to go into all of the yellows and do double reconsideration. And then if you can't get any out of yellow, go into red and find out
Oh, my
what
God.
they were eliminated for. And I'll never forget this as long as I live, Mark. I'll never
Mm.
forget this. There was a dude out of PG County that was arrested for second degree murder. Second degree murder. And what the story was, because I interviewed him, I called him up and I said, listen, tell me about what happened. And he gave some song and fucking dance that he was innocent. And then I
Oh,
called
of
the
course.
investigator from PG County. And what it was, there was a shooting in a Wendy's drive-through, and he shot and he killed the passenger in the vehicle. And he detective was very, very blunt with me. He was like, it was raining that day. CSI came out. They did a shitty job of collecting evidence. He said everything that was supposed to be collected either didn't get collected or was collected improperly. So we charged him, and then ultimately the charges were dropped because we couldn't bring it to trial. He said, but it was fucking dead to rights that this was the guy that shot the passenger. That
Wow.
was the last straw because my boss said to me, it's been expunged, which means it never happened. You will put him into the next academy class. And I said, I'm not putting my name on this person.
Wow.
That was the last one I dealt with. I put my ID card on the keyboard. I walked the fuck out. I
Yeah.
quit. I called my wife and I was like, listen, this is one of those that I think, 5 years from now, this dude's going to kill somebody. They're going to do a fucking record search. And if
Oh,
my
yeah.
name is on this thing, I'm going to get fucking sued. So, there's other issues too, which is recruiting is still at an all-time low in many departments because you have chiefs that don't belong chiefs.
Yeah, I
DC is
mean,
one of them.
you've said it. Yeah, that saw her sing. I saw a video of her singing the other day. I'm like, oh God, here we go. This
Yeah.
TikTok.
And then you ask her what the chain of command is, and she's like,
What's
what is
that?
that? What's that?
What's a chain of command?
Yeah.
What? Come
Because
on, man.
when I was working in DC, she was the diversity, equity, and inclusion
No
commissioner
kidding.
within the police department. She was a civilian. She's never been in law enforcement. Never
Oh my
been in
God.
law enforcement. And this is that perpetual that you see it in Chicago, you see it in Detroit, you see it in a lot of those kind of departments where it's like it's not based on merit. It's based on, hey, I have to fill a certain criteria or demographic. And I get it. I understand why you do that stuff, but it comes full circle. Like if you're sitting there banging your head against the wall and you're going like, we have 50 shootings over the weekend, I wonder why. It's because you don't have enough cops out on the street, and the cops that are out on the street, the ones that
Don't
are
give a
listening to the
fuck.
show, they don't give a fuck because they know you don't got their fucking back.
Right.
They know you don't have their fucking. They know that right away you're going to run right to the body cam footage and try and figure out a way to move liability away from the city or the county and put it on the officer.
Right.
It's not us. We didn't do this.
Yeah.
Mark
What
didn't.
do they say? I mean, yeah, my job is your job is to arrest the criminal. My job is to protect the department from liability.
And they do it.
Uh-huh. Yeah. So their job is to change the inflection. We're gonna put it back on the cop.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
Send them
it's,
feet first to the shredder.
yeah. I mean, before we get too far into this episode, so there's a special announcement. We're going to do a special news break. First in roll call room history, a news break. We have a new book out by two of our favorite folks, Ernie Stevens from Crisis Cops, and our good friend Scott Medlin, who we've done shows with, and who've been on his show. He's been on our show. They put a book out. It's phenomenal. It's doing great on Amazon. Check it out. It's called 101 Questions to Ask Before Becoming a Law Enforcement Officer. I think if any book is needed, that book is definitely needed before you go into it. So I wanted to do a quick plug for them, wishing them a lot of luck. It looks like it's doing really well. They need just a little push on Amazon, so I want to help them out.
Yeah, get down and check it out.
Yeah. So I think our news breaks are going to be. I kind of like this news break thing, man. Gives me a chance to fart too.
Do we have a photo cover?
I will insert it in the editing part somewhere over here.
Okay.
Right next to here. But that is our news break.
News break.
So,
you're not a bitch for buying the book.
No. That just made
my thing is
to make you laugh. To make you laugh.
Yeah, absolutely. With that book, I mean, that's where they need to get out to, like, high schoolers and explorer groups and things like that. So what are the questions we need to ask before we become a cop?
Yeah, I mean, I think you and I have talked about this. Is we've lost the really best, two of the best recruiting methods. One is Cops, the show, or Live PD, whatever one your preference is. And two, we've lost the best recruiters, which are the people on the job. Because now when you walk up to a cop and you say, hey, listen, I want to be a cop, do you recommend being a cop? 9 times out of 10, and we should do an episode on this, what are the top 10 answers that you would get? But I think one of the top episodes is kids stay in school and be a Fed. And that 20 years ago, you would have never
Yes.
fucking heard that. You would have
Right.
heard the beat cop turn around and go, "This is the best fucking job in the world.
Mm-hmm.
Best fucking job in the world." You know, I don't have to answer to anybody, sort of. You know, I come out here, every day is different. There's never a dull fucking moment. You get to see all walks of life. You get to protect the community, and you got the final say in every argument.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the way that it was. Now it's like, you know, you get a lot of these rusty kids, these guys that are like, stay in school, be a Fed, you know, go into accounting.
That yeah, but yeah, I see that because that's a hindsight 2020 statement. You know, I didn't become a cop to sit in an office and be insulated. I became a cop to be out working, and as much as I hated working in the rain, but you know, that's part of the gig. You know, it was running and gunning, it was working crash scenes, it was, you know, every day was different. That's why I loved doing what I did. And I loved every minute of it, even the bad stuff. In hindsight, being 2020, you know, the bad stuff has kind of shaped where we are today. We would not be doing the Roll Call Room podcast right now had it not been for those fucking assholes at our departments. You agree?
Totally.
Is that a good statement?
Totally.
This relationship would not have happened. I would not have reached out to you at 4:30 in the morning saying, "Hey, buddy, love your show," blah blah blah. You know, had that not happened, had that toxic leadership not invaded our departments and took over the front office, then this podcast wouldn't be going on. And you know, we're the OG. Well, you are. I feel like
No, you're
the
part of it.
standing guitarist after Don Felder got thrown out of the Eagles. But yeah, and I'm proud to be here. I'm happy to be here. I was, matter of fact, talking with a guy yesterday regarding training, and he's like, "Aren't you on a podcast?" And I said, "Yeah." And you know, I talked about the Shield Within. I said, or the other show I'm on is a Roll Call Room. So he's clicking away, and he's like, "Oh wow, you guys been at it for a while." I said, "Yeah, Nick's the first." You know, before Roll Call Room came along, what was Police Podcast? Oh, I just love my Streamlight, blah, blah, blah. You know, it's just talking about equipment, or, you know, they're talking about search and seizure. You know, every police podcast was either equipment related or some kind of training related. You know, you were the first one to get on and say, "That guy's a fucking asshole." And everybody's like, "Yes, he is." You know, whoever it is, you know, the old saying of, "Well, it's the same department, different patch." You know, everyone's kind of feeling that burn. So that's where I think a lot of people I know that's as a fan of the Roll Call Room, you know, that's where I really resonate. It's like, fuck yes, you know, this is an epidemic. And I shared with this person that said, well, you know, season 6, we started off, Nick went balls deep. I mean, you know, the Yellow Brick Road. Your line, the Yellow Brick Prick. I mean, that got a lot of
Off a
attention.
lot of people.
It
Like I didn't.
did. A lot of people, even our good friend Travis Yates, fucking called your ass out.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did, and I had to. I mean, I think he agrees at the core of it is that the FBI National Academy, although it does some great things, I think the majority of the time it does more damage than good. And there's nobody that's going to change my opinion of that. Like, I think
Right, but the qualification of that is not that the program is bad. It's the people that take the
it's the people that
program.
come out of it. It's the
Correct.
purpose
They
of the
don't have a way of.
FBI.
Go ahead.
Yeah,
We're
the
both trying
purpose
to.
of the FBI National Academy, I'm all in. Like, I think it's a great program. I think the premise is really good. The vetting process is completely broken, and the FBI National Academy folks are complicit in that, because what they do is they leave it up to the department. They say, "Hey, you pick the person," and as long as they can pass the physical fitness part, they can join our National Academy. They can be class 190 asshole 44 or whatever. The problem that I have with that is it ruins the legitimacy of the National Academy, because the FBI should be vetting. The FBI should be doing panel interviews for people that want to come in. Tell me a time when you led a team and there was opposition. How did you overcome that opposition, and what was the end result?
Exactly.
Those are the type of questions you should be asked before you even get into the National Academy. Because I feel like what happens is these lieutenants and captains and deputy chiefs and chiefs, they go to the National Academy and their head is already this big. And then they get their yellow brick and it's 6 times the amount, because now they can put on their email signature, FBI National Academy graduate 244 class, or whatever the fuck it is. But what are you doing to bring it back? And I know from experience, every single person that I've had at my old agency that went to the National Academy came back far fucking worse than they were before.
Mm-hmm.
They were pricks before. Now they're gigantic fucking pricks. So, the yellow brick prick thing, I get it. Like, it upsets people, but
great line though. Great line. Because that's what got my colleagues. He's like, "Oh, yellow brick. Yeah, what episode is that?" So I sent it to him, and then I told him, we took on IACP. I said, but they heard us though. They heard us. I got not an email. I'm joined them on Facebook, and they were saying the other day about this next mental health symposium they're doing. I'm like, there we go. That's what we've been asking for. Police suicides are still up there. They're coming down somewhat, so it looks like the work we've been doing over the past couple of years has been helping. Or, well, no, I think it has been, because I've been hearing a lot more where these departments are getting their people enrolled in mental health. It's like, hey, you're feeling good now, let's just get you on the books. And right here in the Ohio area, there's a lot of departments that are doing that, getting them signed up. So if you're feeling bad, give them a call. You don't have to wait that 2 or 3 weeks, or we're not in crisis mode. So, those numbers are coming down, thankfully. So, but that was what, 2 years ago, episode or season 6?
Yeah.
When we called them out and we got their attention. It's like the millions of dollars they get. What are you doing with it? And I think, what was their internal education or whatever they were doing is like $57,000 for classes they were doing. It's like, that's outrageous compared to the millions they're getting in. But you got to be bold that way. You got to be willing to rattle the cage. And it wasn't just idle bitching. It was like, look, you're not doing a good job. This knucklehead here that was a class 5 asshole before, you send him to this school, and we're just picking FBI and A. And what we said in that episode was, where does the guy display the brick? Is it back here on the shelf, or is it right up here in the front, where it's in your face every time you walk in the office? I got to look at this, whatever color brick I got here, and it's on the mahogany under the glass, So it's kind of like, I am above you, It's with those folks, it's humility is a big thing, and they lack it. It's like, man, it's like with me with my training. It's like, yeah, I've been doing this a while, and I've been here, and here, but I'm always open to learning every day. This class will teach me something that I didn't know before, and I'm grateful for that. So a lot of times with leadership, be humble, be willing to get down there and empty the trash in the road room once in a while. You're not above it. You're just like everybody else. That's why I tell people, I'm not special. I just got started a little sooner.
Yeah, and it's been a while since I since I checked the IACP, and I just I just logged on to the IRS under their EIN number, their tax ID number, and their revenue for 2023 into 2024 is $42.6 million.
Whoa.
$42.6 million is fucking, it's up there. And I'm going to pull their tax return for last year, or if they've filed for 2024 yet. And I'm going to look at the comparison of the last episode that we did. And we saw a lot of things in there where a lot of money is going to salaries. A lot of fucking money is going towards salaries. And if I don't see, out of $42 million, if I don't see at least 50% of that going towards mental health programs, you're still a piece of shit, because that's a lot of fucking money. And that's the number one fucking thing that's plaguing, aside from recruitment, is law enforcement suicides. And IACP does it wrong. They do it wrong. and they still continuously keep on spending 12 million bucks for a convention, and they make $30 million off the convention because they charge an enormous amount of money for you to set up, an
For the
expo
vendors
area.
and
Yeah,
right.
yeah, they've got a. This is not a nonprofit. In my opinion, this is not a nonprofit. This is a business. They have $52.1 million in total assets. They have $21.9 million in total liabilities. Um, I'm looking at their 2024 tax information right now. They brought in $42.7 million in 2024. Their total expenses was $42.9 million. Let me say that again. Their revenue was $42.7 million and their expenses was $42.9 million. How the fuck did you
So that,
lose money
right.
when
How'd you get them to revenue?
your total liabilities is $21.9 million? This
Right.
is the shit that really this is the shit that really fucking burns my gear. Is they were negative $225,000 last year at the IACP. Last year.
Yeah, and in a corporation in the real world, to be ready to fire the CEO. How are you running us in the red when we have X amount of dollars? What are
Their
you not cutting?
their executive their executive compensations were $2 million.
Wow, I look at that job.
$2 million. It gets even better. Gets even better.
Oh
Hold on.
yes,
I love when
I
we
think I got
first.
under your skin with
Yeah,
that.
the IACP. I think the issue with the IACP for me is that they are not for the little guy. They're not for the fucking little guy. They're for the chiefs and to pat them on the back. So
Right.
let's look at other salaries and wages. $11.3 million in salaries at the IACP, a nonprofit, mind you. That's
Mm-hmm.
26% of their total expenses is going to salaries. Look at this.
Wow.
$594,000 the Vincent Tolucci is making, the director, with $83,000 in bonuses. The
A
deputy
bonus.
executive is making $366,000 with $73,000 in bonuses. The director of
Well,
global policing, $213,000 with a $44,000 bonus. I mean,
they'd have they'd have just been at the break even.
yeah, like I'm sharing the screen only because I want folks that are watching this to know this isn't just pulling out of thin air. They're required to do their filings.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is alarming right here. The net income loss of $225,000 is extremely concerning. Like, let me tell you this. If Mark or Nick filed their taxes on a routine basis and did shit like this, you'd be audited hard.
Oh yeah.
Hard. And it just doesn't happen, man. It just doesn't happen. Their actual filing, their 990 is, I have to take a look at it. Because that's where the nitty gritty really gets down. Like, here's their 2023.
Mm-hmm.
This is the fun one. This is the one where I think we did 2022, maybe. This wasn't
Yeah,
available.
21.
And you look at it, like, you can actually see for their convention, they paid audio video company $1.6 million. They paid catering $1.2 million. Transportation $861,000, education development $810,000. Oh, and they paid the Hilton in Anaheim where they had the convention $704,000.
Bam.
$704,000 for hotel stays. Oh, here's something interesting. They got $14.1 million in government grants, folks. $14.1 million, and they still were negative 225 grand. Other contributing gifts and grants, $5.4 million. So when you're working at 3, 4 o'clock dragging your fucking knuckles for a fucking penny's wage,
Right.
this fucking IACP is getting 19 million bucks from the government.
Well, yeah, work hard. They're dependent on your tax dollars.
Membership dues, $3.9 million. Training and consulting, $2.1 million. Subscriptions, $1.3 million. Advertising, 734,000.
And there again, that's all on the IRS website where anybody
Yeah,
can go
you
pick
go
up
to
that information.
Nonprofit Explorer and you can put any nonprofit in here. You'd be amazed to see how many law enforcement mental health places that tote that they're for law enforcement mental health and suicide prevention. Go ahead and look at their taxes. It's so fun to watch. So fun to
Well,
watch.
it's the end of the where we're going out with that line of thinking is how much money is being spent on these organizations and how little is actually going to the benefit of the officer. We had talked about in an earlier show, why are mental health services not included in your health benefit plan? That with the police, firefighter, and EMS, that should be hand in glove, but it's not. And we push to be there. Why should I have to spend out of pocket on this? This is a chosen profession. Why are we taking care of our people? And like I said, we're seeing those changes, and that's in a local, but I think in the national and a global, I think that these people that are making these kind of monies that have that influence with our lawmakers need to be pushing for that. And other things such as no federal tax for first responders, no state tax for first responders. Well, then everybody's going to want it. Well, go be a cop. If you want to have zero tax, go get into recruiting should never be an issue. You had brought up earlier on an episode, we should be 15 years and out with our pension. You should be able to retire it if you want to stay for 44 years. Good for you, dude. Get a life or a hobby. But,
Yep. 15 and out.
yeah, exactly. You should be able to do that and do something else. But, I was talking with a colleague the other day, guy retired after 40 years, still carrying a badge. It's like, Christ almighty. I had a guy come through one of our classes, 70 years old, still commissioned. 70
Yeah,
years old.
that's
Why? Why are
yeah.
you, I mean, one part of me is like, yeah, man, good for you. And the other side of me is like, what the fuck, dude? Why? I mean, you just can't give it up. What in you is keeping you? And I was talking to the guy during classes. Oh, yeah, I was in uniform the other day working some parade. I'm like, now he looked good. I'm not going to tell you he was old and decrepit like me. But at 70, you get a hold of an 18-year-old that wants to fucking fight. How effective do you think you're going to be?
Well,
You know,
what's your life after law enforcement at that age? Like you're falling within the 5 year mark. Like you're not going to be around. I will say this IACP thing was not planned at all. Like me pulling this
right.
up, not planned at all. But
We're strictly organic today.
I'm looking at it and I'm like 3.2 million dollars for traveling. Now, mind
Hmm.
you, they were 220 some odd $1,000 in the hole this year, right?
Right.
$3.2 million dollars in traveling. Okay. All right. Well, it gets even better. And this was the red flag that we saw last time. They are spending $59,000, only $59,000 per professional development within
That's
their
what.
own organization.
Right.
$59,000. What kind of professional development are you getting? Why are you not bringing on therapists into IACP and paying for their education and deploying these therapists out to departments that have high suicide rates, law
Right.
enforcement high suicide? Like
Or better
it
yet,
just
taking a
baffles
hard
my
look
mind.
at that department. No,
It just
yeah, it's
and
again.
listen, I don't doubt that these taxes are on the up and up anyway. I mean, I without getting sued, I don't want to say that they're cooking the books, but if these are honest figures, um, there's no way a fucking director of a nonprofit should get to keep their job if year after year after year after year you're doing shit like this. Like this is
I would venture to say they're probably not aware.
yeah, they
I
just
can
don't.
say that there's been associations that I've been one association I was the treasurer of, and I was asking And I was no longer the treasurer of that because I asked too many hard questions.
Mhm.
Where's this money going? Where is this at? Yeah, you just need to just do your job, not ask me questions. It's like, no, that's my job. If I'm ever audited, it's my job to have these answers. So no, we're not going to do this. Better yet, well, we just mutually agree that I'm not going to do this anymore. Put some other sap in this position. So these are hard questions you need to ask, and what our job is here on the roll call room is to shine some light on this. It's like I said, we're not making this up. This is strictly organic. The conversation went there. Nick knew the path to go at. So here we are. Take a look, everybody. And a lot of people said the first time we went across this bridge was like, I had no idea.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh
So
yeah.
when you're
I,
pushing a
I was
patrol
getting
car
messages.
around on yeah. Go ahead, sir.
I was getting messages. People were like, "What the fuck? Really?" I mean, I was just scrolling and I randomly just stopped, and it says on here, annual conferences. The IACP annual conference in fiscal year 2024 included the following events: IACP annual conference, October 2023 Officer Safety and Wellness Symposium. March 24, 2024 Technology Conference, May 2024 Impaired Driving and Traffic Safety Conference. The expenses for that was $10 million and it brought in $13 million in revenue. So it's not about, like that's what pisses me off about the IACP. It's not about doing the right thing. It's not about having a wellness symposium to turn around and make some of these chiefs realize that the mental health stuff starts at the tippy tip top. It's about
Mm-hmm.
revenue. It's about revenue
Right.
for them. And they've lost their way. I would really love to see somebody dive into what their federal grants that they're getting are. I'd venture a lot of it is tied into consent decrees.
Oh, gosh.
I bet you
Poor, the
they're
poor
sending
city of
top people.
Cleveland
Yeah.
and their consent decree. It's going on over 10 years now, and they're still suffering with this. Whenever a colleague of mine posts about their consent decree, it's like, throw them people out of there. Take that $1 million a year you're paying the feds and put it back into your police department. You watch things change for the better. What a
Yeah.
shame. So,
Yeah.
kind of change gears here. You got these boxes on the wall behind you. What are those called? You got your coins and your badges in there.
Yeah, buddy. Like what's your take on shadow boxes?
You mean as far as retirements?
Retirements. Like, are
Yeah.
you for them? You against them?
What I'm for is recognizing someone's service while they're out of department and giving them the respect for the amount of time that they spent there. And when it's time for them to move on to greener pastures, not to treat them like third-rate citizens. The shadow box, and this come up the other day. I can give the backstory, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So my relief sergeant, when I was working, it's hard to believe how long we've been retired. He left on good terms, and he had a medical condition. He was fairly young, and it was time to go because the stresses of the job literally could kill him. So he had God had blessed him with the next chapter of his life. So him and his family decided we're moving forward this direction. So he made the hard decision to leave. And I was there the day he gave his last call. Hey, I'm signing off for the last time, blah, blah, blah. I mean, he was emotional and, he was crying and I was crying because, this is like the death of a part of you. Right. He went home and got on a plane and left. And left the city, left the area. They sold their home and they basically picked up and moved cross country. So, he retired, like I said, on good standings, but my former agency did absolutely nothing. They treated him the same way they treated me. His wife came into town and, he bought his gun for $1 and, they had it monogrammed, but they gave it to him in a plastic bag in a cardboard box and said, oh, here you go. Like, here, I'm picking up a set of bed sheets from Bed Bath. There was no fanfare, no thank you, nothing, no shadow box of your accomplishments. And, because he was at my former agency for 15 years. And he texted me the other morning because he's in a different time zone. and he knows I get up with the chickens. And and another sergeant had retired. Well, they had the big plaque and they had the shadow box, and put a big shout out on social media, hey, thank you after all the years, blah blah blah. And he's like, what the fuck is this? I said, I have mixed emotions about it. I'm glad they recognized his service, but my agency, historically, anybody that retired is like, oh yeah, goodbye. And that was it. It's kind of like, get out of here. We just want to bring some new guy in to fill your spot. And the hell with, recognizing your retirees. And I can remember when I was running for the president of our local FOP, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to give the retirees a place to be, kind of their own association. And the lodge I'm with now, that's exactly what they did here. I thought it was being inventive with this, but have a big plaque on the wall, Mark the Cobb served at such and such agency from point A to point B, so many years on the job, to remember, the work that they did, in the time they spent on the job. Because for the people coming along, oh yeah, I didn't know he was a cop or something like that, so where do these shadow boxes come from? You're like, what was there, a shadow box store? I said, yeah, it's called Hobby Lobby. Or Amazon, but Hobby Lobby has a really great selection of that. So I guess where we're going with this is regardless of how your feelings are today, you need to recognize the work that we do, and being put off the job that way. Because I can tell you, when I was working, I was really willing to lay my life down, and be forever, when I want to say connected to that, especially with the people of Washington, D.C., at the National Police Officers Memorial there, have your name. That's the club no one wants to be a part of. But where I'm going with this is that, no, we made it to retirement. We didn't have to go through that. So why are you treating these people as if they never existed? One colleague of mine said he went back to his department. He'd been a lieutenant there and worked honorably 33 years. And he walked in the lobby, and the guy who he didn't know working the windows like, yeah, what can I do for you? Oh, I'm Lieutenant so-and-so. Okay, and the guy was like, wait a fucking minute, he said he treated me just like any other citizen off the street. Said, hey man, come on in, and he was so angry about that. Whereas on the other side of the coin, there's another chief that I just learned about a while ago, who keeps their retirees' credentials active. They can walk in the back still,
Really?
go in, sit down. But yeah, but his thing is, hey, give us a call first, because not everybody knows you. Let us know you're coming in, and yeah, to be able to have those older guys interact with the new guys and tell the stories. And we talked about in earlier episodes that, how do you see your city when you drive through it? A lot of people drive through my former agency. Oh, it's such a cute town and blah, 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 blah. Yeah, it's great. I drive through the cities like dead guy there, fight there. It's city of trauma for me, which is why I avoid driving through there. And it's just merely for my mental health. I don't, because it brings a lot of those memories back, brings a lot of those traumas back. There's a major intersection here by my home that I avoid, because right before I retired, we had a really bad double fatal there at that crash. And, how many times from a motorcycle, and how many times my wife and I had ridden through that intersection, over and over and over, and never thought anything about it. But that day, that couple didn't make it, so I avoid that. So I avoid the effects of PTSD when I drive through it. And yeah, that's one of the things. But moving away, and that's the beauty of going to Florida. You don't have that down there. You don't have the that constant reminder, or I run into this fucking asshole at the the home improvement store or whatever. When I'm in Florida, no, that I all that is gone. But when I come back to Ohio, then it's all back. So that's that constant stress, I guess is a good thing. So when we're talking about the shadow boxes the other day, and even if you're an officer, you can control this in your orbit. Don't think that those retirees are walking out the door, should be forgotten. Treat them with respect, and remember the good work that they did. while they were there, because they brought help. Each one of them in their own special way helped bring the next generation along. And I was always a firm believer that while I was on the job, I'm not going to be here forever. The department's been there for 100 years. I'm just here for 20 of it or 25 of it. But while you're there, train someone up. It's like with Honor Guard. How much work did we do on Honor Guard? I mean, I can speak for myself how many weekends or evenings where I spent doing casket watch for a retiree that passed away, or that week in May, 1st of May through the 16th, we're busy with Police Week and the memorials and all that's going on. You have to want to do that. So you need to, what do I want to say? Bring someone along. Hey, what about Honor Guard? How do I get into this? I want to do this. Sure. It was kind of funny. You were talking about the recruiting for Honor Guard in Alexandria, and you're like, this guy can't even march, but well, he's got a heart, so we'll make a guardsman out of him. But to train one up and to inspire people to want to do those jobs, that's what I think our job is while we're on the job, is to keep those traditions going. And the shadow box on the other end of it is just kind of reflection into the past. How much of that do we have around? And, I like to look at that stuff. I enjoy, the things you have on your wall there in your studio, going from, the different specific badges you got there, or the, the challenge coin collection of things that you've done and your accomplishments. That's a good sign of someone who's been well versed in their job.
Yeah, I mean, for me, this shadow box, I got this when I first left, and then I came back. So this, for me, the shadow box, when everything went down with my department, it sat in my garage. I had it wrapped up and I put it away against the wall in the garage. So much so that there's no glass there. It broke.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't hang it in my old studio back in Virginia. I decided to hang it up here for one specific reason, which is not the reason most people have shadow boxes, which is to celebrate, the accomplishments, everything that you said. It's for me as a constant reminder with my new job, and I say new, I've been there for years. For me to I see it. Like when I'm on camera right now, I see it right there, and it reminds me to never allow myself to be taken advantage of. It always reminds me that this company, this place that I work, is not the only thing that's out there. My work ethic is complete, and you and I have talked about this offline. My work ethic is completely different than when I was with law enforcement. Right. I'm quick to tell you no. I'm quick to tell you absolutely not. It's past 5 o'clock. I'm not doing it. That's my mindset now. Like, I'm in Florida now. Family wants to go to this happened yesterday. Family wants to go to Universal. We're going to Universal.
There we go. Right.
Work or home life. Home life is always going to, get picked. I get why people want shadow boxes. I understand it, and I think there's a purpose for it. But I think some people take it to an unhealthy degree. Like I've seen some shadow boxes where their whole entire life is in there, like pieces of hair and teeth. I'm joking, but I think the interesting part about shadow boxes, and I just thought of this was not planned at all. The interesting part of that is there's no picture of my family in that shadow box.
Right.
And they were there for the entire ride along. They were there for the whole entire ride along.
I don't know. I think that I have mixed feelings on that. But that's a good analogy you had. They were there for the entire ride along, whether they liked it or not.
Yeah, I mean that shadow box doesn't tell you how many fucking birthdays I missed, how many Christmases, Thanksgivings.
Yeah, like the 1, 2, 3, 4 and a hash mark. Well, here's the 5th birthday you missed and the 7th Christmas you've missed for this job. Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah,
and it's kind of cool in the aspect is like they're really unwilling participants in your career choice, and they just have to suffer along with it until it's done. And then there's really no shadow box for them for enduring.
No, I mean, I think I think the part of after you're out of it is where the making up comes. You know, like you
Right.
try.
Yeah.
Um, you said something before that was interesting, about driving through the city. And I know we've talked about this before.
Hmm.
I don't think I've said this on the show, but my dad passed away at the end of June,
So
and
sorry for that.
yeah, and I had to take an emergency flight up back to Virginia. I got to say goodbye at least, the whole that whole thing that was going on. But I will tell you, I went back and I think I messaged you about this. I'm almost 100% sure.
Yeah.
I was struggling, not with my dad. I mean, it was sad, my dad passing, but um, I was struggling because I forgot how much I left.
Hmm.
When you go back there, you are 100% right. Down here in Florida, dude, I don't worry about shit. I go to fucking Walmart, Target, Universal, Disney Springs. I go to all these places, dude. I don't have my head on a swivel worrying about I'm going to run into some piece of shit from my old agency. I don't have
Right.
that.
Right.
Instantly, bro. As soon as I got off at Reagan Airport, instantly, I'm like looking around, and I'm
Feel
driving
that dump of
around, and yeah,
cortisol and
man.
the adrenaline starting back, the hypervigilance
Yeah.
coming back. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry you went through that, bro.
Yeah, but you know what? I talked to my wife about it, which is I think it was good to go back there because you realize how far you've come in your mental health journey. Like you
Great
realize,
statement. Yes, that's
yeah,
awesome.
like I I realized because I tell you this, I come off the airport, I get my car, I drive all the way to the hotel, and I'm automatically digging into my book bag looking for anti-anxiety medication. Between funeral arrangements and hospital stuff and worrying about who I was going to run into and then worried about if I ran into them. Now I definitely don't have a filter because I've been gone for a couple months. My dad just passed.
Right.
Like these are things that are going through my mind. I'm in Florida now for almost 6 months, man. I haven't taken shit. I don't
Yeah.
take anything other than aspirin. Like
Ain't it
it's
wonderful?
crazy. It's crazy, dude. It's crazy. And I've gotten people that have asked me from the job that I work at now. They're like, "Hey, would you ever consider moving back to Virginia?" And the answer is, "Fuck no." Why would I do that?
It's not no, it's fuck no.
It's
Yeah.
fuck no.
Well,
I
and
think,
and it's go ahead.
yeah, go ahead, buddy.
Well, it's perspective. How do you see the room? Um, when I used to go in for therapy with Dr. David, I never sat in the same spot because we're humans, we're victims or creatures of habit, right? So you walk in. If he's got a couch and a chair, you always sit at the couch to the right, and you put your coffee on that stand, and you do the same thing every time you go in there. Where every time I went to David's office, I sat somewhere different. And he, after about I don't know a time and period, he said, "Let me ask you a question before we get started today." And I was like, "Yeah, go ahead." And he said, "Why did you sit there today?" I said, because I wanted to see the office in a different perspective. Okay, keep going. I'm liking what you're saying. I said, well, if you see the same thing over and over, you're going to have the same results, like the definition of insanity. So if you really, truly want to be a warrior for your own mental health, change your perspective, change your life. You're no longer in that city. It's not like, I was born here and we went to school here and I married my high school sweetheart here and we go to the Eagles every Friday night, blah, blah, blah. And that's fine if that's for your life. But when you're in law enforcement and you're no longer a first responder, um, those traumas are fucking real, man. You lived through them. You did this shit.
Hmm.
And the beauty of moving to Florida is you're no longer in there. You're out of that. You just took yourself out of that pool of trauma, and the life is better, and it really adds to your recovery. So we both chose Florida, but you can pick any state. Like my relief sergeant, he was blessed. He lives in Hawaii. Good for him.
Nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, legit, God smiled upon him. I mean, and they're very religious. He's doing things out there he never thought possible. post law enforcement. The job that he has is a great paying job, and it's fulfilled him in many different ways, benefits, and his wife has a great career out there, and they're living in paradise. He's like, well, as long as we're here, we're going to enjoy the ride. And another one of my officers, he left law enforcement after he got a really bitter taste in his mouth from my former agency. And what he's doing now, he's the job he's in now, he's now a world traveler. He's over in Europe now. And he sent me some photos, and good for him. I said, yeah, you wouldn't be doing that shit if you were still on the job. You'd be pushing a cruiser around on second shift. Now you're seeing these relics of ancient man, with the position where you're in right now. So what I'm saying is that there is life beyond being a cop. Being a cop's a great job. Loved what I did. Very blessed, and the people that I've met throughout the career is awesome. But I guess to kind of wrap us, Jesus, look at the time. To wrap us up is that make your own way. Don't get in a closed set of mind. Think about what's going to be next after my career as a cop, and that's the biggest thing. Take care of yourself, meaning do the proper amount of savings. Don't, whenever you get a raise, don't go buy the new F-150. Take that money and put it away for later. I didn't do that. Don't be me is what I tell everybody. Get that education. If your city's paying for education, get it. Take advantage of it, because at life after, you may need that degree to be able to take care of yourself and to provide for your family. And again, great career. Loved it while I was there, but there is some after effects, and changing your venue and changing your perspective may be something you want to think about.
Yeah. I don't think that there's a better way to wrap up this episode that has gone in many, many different directions. Very different than what you and I had planned before hitting
This is
record.
our ADHD episode, right?
Yeah.
That's funny. And don't forget, manscaped.com.
Yes.
Manscaped.
And
if you're feeling a little furry, promo code roll call room for 20% off.
Yeah, and don't forget we have coffee now. Rollcallroomcoffee.com. Rollcallroomcoffee.com. Get your coffee on. Freshly roasted by yours truly. I want to thank everybody for sticking in and watching and waiting for episodes to come out. I think we're doing them more frequently. I think we're sticking to our commitment, which is great. I love seeing the YouTube numbers, but make sure you like and share and comment on there. Comment is real big for the algorithm in YouTube. Make sure you're sharing those videos on your social media. We're doing 20,000 plus views, so thank you for that. But most importantly, take good care of yourself. Mark and I cannot say that enough. I really can't. Say goodbye to the folks, Mark.
Say goodbye. No, we'll just see you next time. So if you have any questions, comments, or anything, it's Mark with a C at rollcallroom.com or Nick at rollcallroom. If you have a topic on there, hey, bring this up and talk about this, just send us an email. We'll be happy to look into it. Again, take care of yourself. If you're not in therapy, get you a therapist. That way you don't have to go through it. Thank you to all the chiefs out there that are getting their people involved in mental health and supporting that, because that's essential. So remember, first care starts with you. You should always be the first one you're taking care of. Being people of service, we tend to put everyone else first. But remember, life isn't good unless you're there with them.
All right, folks. Be good to each other. Take care. Be safe out there. And we'll see you on the next one.